Welcome to this new devlog of my real-time tactics game on Platoon Leader. This time I added more particles and modeled a new tank. Also I have some things I need to talk about. Hi, I'm Leonard from Bad Brick Studio. It's been quite a while since the last devlog, about 4.5 months. You would of course now like to hear that I made massive progress and have a AAA game by now, but I was mostly busy with Battlefront Scratch, which is now being ported to Unity, an interesting project where I can use my knowledge gained through on Platoon Leader and use what I learned there. Still means I suck at coding, but let's hope it's enough so Armor Platoon Leader will be a AAA game and not an ass game. I had time to think about the game, however, so that I have a better idea of what the game could be. But first, quick recap. It's a real-time tactics game. In World War II, you are a platoon leader and control a tank platoon. Last devlog, I got closer to my desired look by using post-processing for an overall color film footage effect, to distinguish it from the 100 desaturated, sepia-toned, generic Saving Private Ryan inspired game. It is authentic, although not too photorealistic, having some emotional distance, which fits better with the simpler graphics because I'm not stupid and think I can make a fuckload of high poly realistic assets, and I really enjoy the general style of most low poly art. Anyhow, basically directly after filming that devlog, I made some more additions. The house I had made the devlog before got set up for being a destructible. It works, but there are too many big chunks and I'm still not too fond of how the overall destruction system works, as it doesn't really work for a house to get destroyed one wall after another, so I had to set all of the parts up separately. And the chunks are too big, so it just blocks any shots that are coming in, which is still realistic, I guess, since in a war zone houses can crumble and all of this rubble can even bury entire tanks. Anyway, I'll have to rework that system like the entire code too, as it's 8 months or so old and overcomplicated to infinity and beyond. I used some out-of-the-box particles and modified them for diesel engine smoke and dust blown up by movement, and I just set up the track dust by making them emit over distance. Some other particle effects were made for tank shot effects, but we don't want to talk about that. They all aren't really so great, and since I've now tried out the particle system for Battlefront Scratch to Unity port, I will make my own particles very soon, so we don't have to look at that piece of eye cancer anymore. Then I laid the project on rest for about 3 months, where I worked on other things. Watch the update number 3, where I go into more details if you want to. So you know how I have Blender. I used it to make a 3D animation without a clue on how it works in 6 hours. You know what Blender can also do? 3D modeling. I also said that I wouldn't want to learn how to do Blender 3D models, because that's for nerds. Well, frick that, Blender modeling go. And for seemingly the first time ever, I actually recorded me doing stuff. Also, I'll have to tell you a secret. I've been hiding it from you for over 8 months now, and I thought it's about time I share this with you. I'm in love with this thing. This, my friends, is the Panzerkampfwagen 4 Ausführung H with armor skirts. And it is, quite frankly, the sexiest tank from World War II. I mean, look at him. He looks so splendid. Oh, you thought I'd have a girlfriend or something. I mean, I'm here simping for a tank while other people socialize, which is kinda sad and really says it all. How do you think somebody like me would get in the position that people will talk to me? But back to the topic, Panzerkampfwagen 4. I mean, you could cure depression with those armor skirts, and it might have did so. Anyways, I've been fascinated by it since I started on the Platoon Leader, and I happen to have manipulated you all this time. How, you might ask? Well, in the devlogs I've been mostly showing video footage of the Panzer IV, and it also appears in my small DIY tabletop tank army. It's in Unity of Command too, and even most references for the post-processing were Panzer IVs, so now I have hopefully opened your eyes to the Panzerkampfwagen 4 Ausführung H. So back to Blender. You know what I wanted to model now. Well, except I searched up the plans for reference and it's just too difficult to encompass all of this beauty in a 3D model. Also there are like a lot of lines, and I was just sitting there staring at my screen like, the f***, what? Luckily, I know a simpler tank, the M4 Sherman, of which I have a simplified blueprint from somewhere, so I modeled that. Some simple tutorials going for minimalist but still recognizable. Instead of watching just me in the time-lapse now, I can also tell you about today's sponsor, Panzerkampfwagen 4. Just kidding. I'll tell you what I think the game will become. Since you're only controlling a limited number of people for a real-time tactics game, roughly 25 men, I think it could be cool to have some sort of narrative to make you feel more like being a commander with people you are responsible for. However, since you can basically get anyone killed at any time, we can't just have pre-scripted characters. So procedural generation with characters having and evolving traits would be the obvious choice. I'll take some inspiration by Armored Commander, a tank roguelike which also has small bits of procedural generation, but I'll try to make it so that you even care for your men. This also helps to make a big variety of campaigns for the game, since I want you to be able to play as any faction that fielded tanks in the Second World War. And since it's a global war, I thought you could also play as the major armored divisions even, since they came around quite a bit. Like the 16th Panzer Division, which first fought in the Netherlands, then Operation Barbarossa, the Battle of Kursk, heavy fighting in the Meuse front, was sent to France to restock tanks, got caught up in D-Day, barely got out of the Falaise pocket, then the Battle of the Bulge, pulled back after the Ardennes offensive failed, fought in Cologne, ended up in a Ruhr pocket and ended the war there. This isn't the only one of these stories, however. French armored units, for example, also made quite a journey, and that can provide the game with much variety in terms of different settings. So I'll experiment with that sort of stuff and a realistic feeling for the combat. Anyhow, I'm pretty excited of how the Sherman turned out, and all tutorials I used are of course in the description. I'll also put a reference picture on Discord, link in the server is in the description. In Unity I then compared the new Sherman to the first model I made for the game in Tinkercad, which was also a Sherman. I like both, but the tracks of the new Sherman look way better, and Blender is just far better than Tinkercad for making models. So I'll redo the assets I already have in Blender and use it for all further stuff. I'll also dive into the mess of code I made and just make it suck less and just work better overall. Now here's some cinematic shots from the game with the grass stuff I like so much. I also made those static so it's less FPS expensive. Smash like and subscribe or else I'll get Panzerkampfwagen 4. Special thanks to my supporters Bamfox, Blue Blur 2021 and +1.